Cancel your wedding immediately. Get up in the morning and go to your mother-in-law's house, and you will see everything. My deceased grandmother told me that in a dream the day before my wedding, and when I arrived at my mother-in-law's house, I was paralyzed when I saw that. But before I continue, tell me in the comments, what city are you listening to me from? I would love to know how far my story has reached. Mary Adams was 30 years old. She was wearing soft fabric pants and a shapeless cotton t-shirt, one of those she wore when she did not need to prove anything to anyone. She was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, her face still damp from the shower steam. In the reflection, she saw the usual large eyes, mascara-free eyelashes, black hair pulled back haphazardly. What she did not see, what she felt, was an anxiety that was not entirely explained. The calendar hanging on the hallway wall marked that there were exactly 21 days left until her wedding, a dream wedding, a dress already bought, invitations sent, everything ready, everything decided. But in her chest that morning, something did not feel right. She opened the window. The January air rushed in. She lived in a residential area in the upper part of the city, like a nice neighborhood in Chicago, where the mornings were cooler and the neighbors barely greeted each other. She liked the silence of her apartment, although sometimes, like today, she felt that silence was also taking its toll. Mary was a general accountant at an import company. She had built her life step by step, with effort. She inherited the apartment from her parents after their death in an accident 8 years ago. Her younger sister lived in another country. Her friends, almost all married. And she, after so much avoiding it, after so many disagreements, had decided to commit to someone, Robert Miller. Tall, with a deep voice, a confident smile. Brown eyes, 37 years old, owner of a small logistics business that, according to him, was expanding. He had met her by chance during a bank appointment. He needed help reviewing some accounting documents, and she, at that moment, was the only professional available. He was courteous, interesting. Mary did not see it coming, but in a matter of weeks, they were already having dinner together, talking about dreams, and he was starting to appear in her long-term plans. Robert was different. He did not have the adolescent air of the men she had known. He did not play hard to get. He was direct. And he had that protective touch that, although she did not openly admit it, made her feel seen. He proposed to her 3 months ago, at the most expensive steakhouse they knew. Mary remembered the soft piano music, the candlelight, the waiter who suddenly appeared with a glass of wine, and inside, the ring. It was not ostentatious. It was just right. Robert knelt down in the middle of the tables while other diners applauded. Mary laughed, excited. She said yes without thinking much, and that was what tormented her today. Why did she not think more? That morning, after coffee, she received a message from him. "My mum wants to see us this afternoon. She is excited about the banquet, can you?" Mary's finger trembled as she typed, "Yes, of course." It was the logical, polite thing to do, but she could not forget the first time she visited that house. She remembered it in detail. Teresa Miller, Robert's mother, received them with a clean apron, a tight bun on her head, and a look that seemed to measure Mary's worth with an invisible tape measure. Smiling but critical, polite but cutting. "And you live alone?" she asked directly, pouring coffee without looking her in the eyes. "Yes," Mary replied. "A few years ago, I inherited my parents' apartment." "In what area?" "In High View." Teresa observed her as if she had just been told she lived in Beverly Hills. "Nice area, very sought after." That night, while they were washing the dishes, Robert told her in a low voice, "Do not take it personally. My mum was raised old-fashioned. It is hard for her to trust." Mary did not answer, but she never forgot the way Teresa, between questions about income, debts, inheritance, and family, avoided talking about her own son. About Robert, she only said, "He is very good at business, but he needs a stable woman, like you. Stability." Always that word. In the middle of the afternoon, Mary was in her office when an idea burst in like a lightning bolt. What if I do not get married? What if I do not really know the man I am going to share my life with? She looked at her agenda. Everything was there. Timelines, payments, guest lists, crossed out names, chosen flowers, confirmed caterer. But there was no room for doubt, as if getting married were a business operation and not a vital decision. That night, she went to sleep with restless thoughts. The city was gradually becoming silent, and the darkness of the room embraced her with its familiar coldness. Mary took a long time to fall asleep. She tossed and turned. She squeezed the pillow. She uncovered herself. She covered herself again. And then she saw her, clearly. Her grandmother, her second mother, the woman who raised her when her parents worked all day, who taught her not to beg for love, to recognize signs, not to ignore gut feelings. Clara had died 4 years ago, after a long battle with diabetes. Mary still kept her handkerchief on the nightstand. But what happened that night was different. The dream did not seem like a dream. Clara was sitting in the dining room chair, the same one where she used to read in the afternoons. She was wearing her light blue robe and her plush slippers. Her face was serene, but her eyes burned. "Cammy," she said, using the pet name that only her grandmother used. "Listen to me closely, because I do not have much time. You have to get out of there. Those people are not good." Mary could not move. She could barely feel her body. She just listened. "Do not marry him. He is not who he says he is. Tomorrow, go to his mother's house. Go alone. You will understand everything." Mary tried to speak. She could not. Clara got up, took her hand, and whispered, "This is not love, my girl. It is a trap. You have to wake up." And she woke up, sweating, gasping. The clock showed 4:46 in the morning. She sat up in bed. Everything seemed normal, the room silent, the lights off. But something inside her was trembling. She got up, walked to the kitchen, turned on the light, poured herself a glass of water. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the calendar. Saturday, meeting with Teresa. She took a deep breath. Then she decided, "I am going to go earlier, alone," she murmured, feeling her grandmother's voice still floating in the air. She would not say anything to Robert. The next day, she dressed without haste. Denim pants, a simple blouse, hair tied back. She got into the car. She drove in silence. At every traffic light, the dream returned. Clara's gaze, the warning. When she arrived at Teresa's house, she parked a few houses away. She walked the last few yards. The street was quiet. She rang the doorbell. No one answered. She rang again, and then from the back of the house, she saw something. A woman was leaving through the back door, young, blonde, wearing a red jacket, hurried. She got into a car without looking back. Mary froze. Moments later, Teresa opened the door. "Mary, what a surprise. Were you not coming this afternoon with Robert?" "I wanted to talk to you alone." Teresa observed her with a tight smile. "Of course, come in. I was just preparing something to eat." Mary entered. The house smelled of stale coffee. Teresa led her to the dining room, where a folder with papers lay open on the table. "I am reviewing the paperwork for the event hall," she said. But what Mary did not know was that the folder had nothing to do with the wedding. While Teresa went to the kitchen, Mary took a quick look. Names, lists, addresses, and a title, Single Property Owners. A chill ran down her body. Then she understood. The woman who left through the back door was not just any visitor, and Teresa was not just an intrusive mother-in-law. Mary swallowed. Her heart pounded in her chest. And there, in that house where everything seemed orderly and quiet, her life began to crumble. Teresa returned from the hallway with a tray of dry cookies and a smile as fake as the embroidered tablecloth on the table. "Do you like chamomile tea, Mary? It is calming," she said, placing the cup in front of her with hands that trembled slightly. "It is fine, thank you," Mary replied, without taking her eyes off the folder she had just seen. She had subtly closed it as soon as she heard the footsteps returning. Still, her mind kept reviewing what she managed to read. Women's names, addresses, columns with titles like marital status and property in own name, all in legible handwriting with marginal notes. Teresa sat down on the other side of the table. Mary looked at her. Her gestures seemed the same, but there was a strange glint in her eyes, an uncomfortable stiffness, as if she knew she was acting and feared being discovered. "Everything okay, Mary?" Teresa asked in a soft voice. "You look a little pale." "Yes, of course. Just, I woke up early." Lying to her was easy, too easy, as if Teresa's presence activated a defense mechanism that Mary did not know she had. While she took a sip of tea, her thoughts were a dense cloud. Who was that woman who left through the back? Why did the folder contain such sensitive information? Why was Teresa acting as if everything was fine when it was clear that it was not? "Tell me, Mary," Teresa said, while fiddling with a napkin. "Are you happy with Robert?" The question dropped like a stone in the water. Mary looked at her, surprised. "Of course," she replied. "Why do you ask?" "For no reason. Weddings always bring stress, doubts, things one thinks were already settled. And later, when you are already married, you realize there were signs, little ones, that you preferred not to see." "Are you referring to your marriage?" Teresa laughed without humor. "I did not marry for love, Mary. I married because it looked good. Because back then, a woman without a husband was frowned upon. But do not worry. You are not like me." "What do you mean?" "That you have something I never had. A property in your name, a stable career, control over your life. Robert needs a woman like that. You balance him." Mary swallowed. The conversation was a strange mix of praise and manipulation. Every word seemed to have another hidden behind it. "And what do you think of Robert?" she asked. Teresa looked at her. For an instant, her smile vanished. "He is my son, and that is not what I asked you. I know him better than anyone. I know what he is capable of, and also what he needs. Robert has flaws, like everyone, but he also has a big heart." "Does that woman who left through the back door think so too?" The question was direct, a shot in the middle of the living room. Teresa tensed. "What are you talking about?" "That I saw her, Teresa. I saw a woman leaving out the back when I rang the doorbell. Blonde, young. She seemed to be in a hurry." "Oh, it must have been someone from the neighborhood. Sometimes I come to look after the son of a neighbor who works nearby." "And that neighbor leaves without her son?" Teresa held her gaze for a few seconds. Then she sighed, got up, and went toward a wooden cupboard. She opened one of the drawers, took out a photo album, and dropped it onto the table in front of Mary. "You want to know who it was? Then look." The tone had changed. Harsher, less motherly. Mary opened the album. At first, everything seemed normal. Old photos of Robert as a child, birthdays, trips to the beach, Christmases. But when she reached the most recent pages, her breath hitched. There was Robert, next to a slender blonde woman with a wide smile and a red dress. He was hugging her around the waist. Both were in front of a house she did not recognize. The date, written with a marker in a corner, June of last year. 1 year. Only 1 year. Mary turned the page, more photos of them together. At a restaurant, on a patio, at what looked like a wedding. A wedding. In the image, Robert was wearing a dark suit and the blonde woman was dressed in white. It was more informal than a traditional wedding, but the image left no room for doubt. "What is this?" Mary asked, her voice cracking. "A phase that has passed," Teresa replied, without batting an eye. Robert was with her, yes. It was crazy, very fast, but it did not work out. She was problematic. Problematic? Too emotional. She wanted to control him. In the end, it was better that they separated. Did they get married? That is his business. And hers. Mary slammed the album shut. Her hands were shaking. "Why did he never tell me anything? And did you ask him?" The silence was absolute. Teresa sat down again. Her expression was different, more serious, more real. "Listen carefully to what I am going to tell you, Mary. There are things that are better not to know. Sometimes the past is just that, the past. Digging it up only brings pain. And what about the deception? Do you think anyone is safe from that?" Mary got up. She could not stand it anymore. She walked toward the door, opened it quickly. Teresa did not move. "Do you really want to marry Robert like this? Accept that there are parts of his life that you will not understand or control. Marriage is not a contract between angels." Mary left without answering. The drive back was long. The traffic seemed endless, but she did not see the cars or hear the noises. She was only thinking about the blonde woman, about the photos, about the folder, about everything she had ignored for love. That night, when Robert arrived at her apartment, Mary was sitting on the sofa with the album in her hands. He walked in with a smile, as if nothing were wrong. He was carrying a bag with Chinese food and a bottle of wine. "Honey, look what I bought. Your favorite." He put the bag on the table, took off his jacket. "How was the meeting with my mum?" Mary looked up. "Why did you not tell me you were married?" Robert froze. The silence became thick. Then he lowered his gaze. He ran his hand over his face. He sat down across from her. "What did my mum tell you?" "I saw the photos." "Ah. Did you marry that woman?" "It was complicated. And why did you not tell me?" "Because it does not matter." "It does not matter?" "Mary, listen to me. It was a mistake. Something that happened very quickly. It lasted less than 6 months. She was unstable." "Did you meet her at a bank too?" Robert did not answer. "Did you ask her to sell her house too?" His gaze changed. For the first time, he seemed annoyed. "What are you talking about? I saw a folder at your mother's house, a list of women with properties, all single. What is that? You have no right to meddle in our business." "In our business? Is that what you call preparing a wedding?" "Lower your tone. Answer me, Robert." "I have nothing to explain." He got up. He took his jacket. He looked at Mary with an expression she had never seen. Cold. Distant. "Not everyone has a clean past, Mary, but you are not perfect either. Or are you? I am not talking about perfection. I am talking about lies." Then keep your doubts. I do not have to justify myself. He left the apartment, slamming the door. Mary was left alone, with the photos on the table and a hollow feeling in her stomach that was not hunger. Her world was falling apart, and she no longer knew which part to pick up first. She could not sleep that night, not because she missed Robert, but because, deep down, she felt that the nightmare was just beginning, and her grandmother's dream, far from being an exaggerated warning, was starting to look too much like a fulfilled prophecy. Mary spent the whole night awake. Her eyes were fixed on the ceiling, her breathing shallow, and her mind spinning in circles without rest. The images assaulted her like lightning flashes. The blonde woman leaving through the back of the house, the folder with names and properties, the photo album with a previous wedding, Robert's cold reaction. She did not know if she felt rage, fear, or shame. Maybe everything at the same time. The dawn arrived relentlessly. She got up without energy, made herself a coffee, and let it cool without tasting it. She was still wearing the same pajamas she wore the night before. Her cell phone vibrated on the table. It was Margaret, her best friend since college, the only person with whom she could be completely honest, without feeling like she had to justify every emotion. "Are you okay?" Margaret asked when she answered. Mary took a second to respond. "No." "Do you want me to come over?" "Yes." 30 minutes later, Margaret was sitting in her living room with a notebook in her hands, as if they were improvised detectives. Her hair was pulled back in a tight braid, and she had the expression of someone ready to unearth secrets, no matter the cost. "Tell me everything, from the beginning," Margaret asked firmly. Mary did. From the first day she met Robert at the bank branch, to her grandmother's dream, the folder, the photo with the blonde woman, and the final argument. Margaret did not interrupt, just nodded silently, taking mental notes. When Mary finished, Margaret exhaled loudly. "We have to find out who that woman is." "How?" "Social media. He has an Instagram account, right?" "Yes, but he does not post much, almost nothing personal." "Then we will check the comments, the followers, who he follows. Social media says more than one thinks." They turned on the laptop. Margaret typed nimbly while Mary dictated the names she remembered, the profiles she had seen in the album. They searched for Robert first. His account was private, but the list of people he followed was public. Margaret began to check them one by one. "There are many women," she said. "Some have normal usernames, others use strange pseudonyms. Let us check the ones that have photos similar to the blonde you saw." Mary leaned closer and observed each profile. Many were locked. Others were very active, but with superficial content. Just as they were about to close the laptop, Margaret stopped. "Wait, this one." The profile said Larissa Morena. It was a modest account, with few posts. But in one of the photos, taken just over a year ago, Robert appeared, hugging the same woman she had seen in the album, same face, same hair, same red dress. Mary felt a hollow in her stomach. "It is her." Margaret opened the photo. The caption said, "He makes me feel secure. Thank you for appearing in my life." "This is from last year," Margaret confirmed. "How long have you been with Robert?" 11 months. Then they overlapped. Mary felt a shiver run down her arms. "What do we do? What should I write to her?" "From my account. You cannot appear." "Not yet." Margaret wrote a brief but empathetic message. "Hello, Larissa. I am sorry to write to you out of the blue. I have a delicate situation involving Robert Miller. I would like to talk to you, please. It is not a joke." They sent it. Hours passed. Mary could not concentrate on anything. Margaret stayed with her all day, and at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the response arrived. "Who are you? What do you know about Robert?" Margaret showed her the message. Mary felt her heart pounding like a drum. "I just need to know if you were with him last year. Some things do not add up. Please, I need to talk to you. It is important." 20 minutes passed before Larissa sent another message. "Yes, I was with him. I married him? Who are you?" Mary took Margaret's phone and typed with trembling fingers. "I am Mary Adams. I am his fiancée." The answer did not take long. "Oh my God," another message followed. "We need to talk, but not here. Can we meet? I have something to show you." Margaret and Mary agreed to meet the next day at a downtown coffee shop in New York City. The place was open, with large windows, and there were always people. It seemed safe. Mary barely slept that night, but this time it was not out of fear. It was out of the desperate desire to know, to understand, to confirm what she already feared. The next day, Mary arrived 10 minutes early. Margaret accompanied her, but stayed at another table to observe from afar. Larissa arrived on time. She was thinner than she looked in the photos. Her face was tired, with dark circles, and her hair was pulled back in a casual bun. "You are Mary," she said without greeting her. Mary nodded. Both sat down. "Tell me everything," Larissa said with a rough voice. "How long have you been with him?" "Almost a year. I told my friend everything. We started searching social media. You appeared." Larissa lowered her gaze. She took a folder from her purse. She put it on the table. "It is all here. Copies of the documents for the house I sold, messages from him, the police report, although it did not help at all." Mary opened the folder. The papers were organized. Public deed of sale. Bank deposit in Robert Miller's name. A printed WhatsApp message where he promised her, "In 6 months, I am going to give you the house you deserve." What happened after you sold? He disappeared. He took all the money, changed his number, blocked me. I went to his house and his mother told me he was traveling, that she knew nothing. Did you not file a police report? Of course, but there was no way. Legally, it was not theft. I sold of my own free will. He did not force me. I did not leave proof that the money was for him. I did not sign anything. Mary felt a knot in her throat. And how did you meet him? At the bank. I went to do some paperwork. He helped me with some documents. He seemed kind. From there, we started dating. He told me I was different, that he finally found a mature, strong, confident woman, and I believed him. And you never suspected anything? Yes, but I confused it with normal things. That he did not talk about his job, that he did not introduce me to all his friends, that he was always so careful with his cell phone. But I thought he had emotional baggage. I felt sorry for him. Mary took a deep breath. I swear I did not know anything. Larissa nodded. Her face softened. It is not your fault either. He is a professional. He does not improvise. He has everything calculated. Do you know if he has done it before? I do not have proof, but the mother knows everything. She covers for him. And is there another woman? Yes, Jane. I heard her name. Robert mentioned her by mistake once, thinking I was asleep. Do you know anything about her? Only that she disappeared. No one knows where she is. They think she moved to another country, or that something worse happened to her. Mary felt her stomach clench. Do you think... I do not know. But if I had not had my sister nearby, maybe I would have ended up the same way. I got depressed. I shut myself in. I lost my friends. I did not trust anyone. And now, I work part-time. I am recovering. But I do not have anything of my own. Everything went with him. Mary remained silent. She looked at the papers, the names, the dates. Everything fit. Can I keep this? Do it. And if you can, report him. Even if it does not send him to jail, at least he will not do the same thing again. They said goodbye without hugs. Larissa walked toward the street as if carrying 1,000 pounds on her back. Mary was left alone at the table, looking at the papers. Margaret approached, her face distraught. "Did you hear her?" "Yes," Mary replied. "And she is not the only one." That night, while reviewing the documents in her apartment, her cell phone vibrated. Unknown number. Mary answered. "Hello?" A woman's voice, low, almost whispering. "Are you Mary Adams?" "Who is speaking?" "I cannot say my name. But listen to me carefully. Do not marry Robert. He is not who he says he is." Mary was speechless. "Who are you?" "Just someone who knew him. He ran away with everything I owned. Do not let the same thing happen to you. Please." And she hung up. Mary stood up, alone, the phone still at her ear, as it began to rain outside. The rain was not heavy, but it had that persistent sound that seemed to drag dark thoughts, memories one would prefer to bury. The echo of the anonymous voice still floated in the air of her apartment, as if every corner had heard it. "Do not marry Robert. He is not who he says he is." She turned off the cell phone with ice-cold hands. She felt a pressure in her chest, a weight she could no longer ignore. What at first seemed like a bad feeling had transformed into a truth that pursued her at every step. She was engaged to a man who built his life on lies. The next morning, even before having coffee, she dialed Margaret's number. Her voice sounded determined, leaving no room for doubt. "I need an investigator, a good one, someone who does not just look on social media. I want real proof." Margaret did not ask questions. She sent her the contact of someone trustworthy, a man named Alan Harrison, former police officer, now a private detective. He had a reputation for being discreet and meticulous. Mary dialed his number without thinking. The appointment was in a small office located in an old building downtown in Miami. Alan was a man in his 50s, with a trimmed beard and grey eyes that seemed to see more than they should. He listened carefully as Mary explained everything. He did not interrupt, even once. He only took notes with a blue pen that seemed to have been worn out from writing so many other people's truths. "Do you have proof?" he asked when she finished. "Only this," Mary replied, handing him the folder Larissa had given her. "And a couple of messages. An anonymous call." Alan quickly flipped through the documents. "This is enough to start, but it is not enough for a formal complaint. Let us see what else there is." "How much time do you need?" "It depends on how many skeletons the guy has in the closet. Although I warn you, if what you tell me is true, you are not going to like what I find." "I do not like anything anymore, Alan. I just want the truth." Alan looked at her for a few seconds, as if measuring her resilience. Then he nodded. "I will call you in 1 week." The following days were torture. Mary lived with her cell phone glued to her hand, waiting for news. She avoided Robert with simple excuses, work meetings, headaches, accumulated work. He responded with understanding and sweet messages, as if he genuinely cared about her well-being. That was the most unbearable part. The theatre. The constant performance of a man who knew how to pretend perfectly. On the 7th day exactly, Alan called. "I have what you asked for. Can you come today?" Mary did not hesitate. Alan received her in the same office, but this time on the desk there was a thick envelope, sealed, and a black folder with her name written by hand. She sat down across from him. Alan was not smiling. "I would be lying if I told you this is the worst thing I have ever seen," he began. "But it is close. Robert Miller does not exist as such. Not legally, at least." Mary felt her stomach clench. "What do you mean?" "His real name is Morris Robert Taylor Miller. He has used at least 5 different aliases in the last 10 years, each one with seemingly legal documentation, but all with inconsistencies, altered birth certificates, passports with fake stamps, duplicated social security numbers. He is a master of camouflage." Alan opened the folder and showed her several copies. "This is his first registered marriage, to a woman named Paula Harrison, 12 years ago. It lasted 8 months. She transferred her retirement fund to him, and he disappeared. Then came his second wife, Jane Dixon, the same one Larissa mentioned. There is no record of her whereabouts from 6 years ago. Officially, she is not dead, but there is an active missing person report. And the third? Larissa Morena. 1 year ago. She, as you know, sold her house on his recommendation. Everything legal. But he disappeared before she could buy a new one. In all cases, the patterns repeat. Women with their own assets, without close family support systems, emotionally vulnerable." Mary could not believe what she was hearing. She clenched her fists on her lap to keep from crying. "And his job?" "Fake. The company he told you he owned does not exist. Never existed. He has profiles created with simulated data. Websites that look real, but are not officially registered. A facade." "And his mother?" Alan paused. "Teresa Miller is real, but she is also part of the game. She does not just cover for him. She actively participates. In fact, there is something else." He opened another folder. "She has a cousin, Diana Miller, a real estate agent. She is the one who contacts the victims, tells them about safe investments, and helps them sell their properties. She was the one who managed the sale of Larissa's house. She is also mentioned in 2 other similar scams." Mary felt nauseous. She took a deep breath. "And is there another woman now?" Alan nodded. "Yes. Her name is Ivana Stone, 28 years old. She lives in the northern part of the city. She works at a medical center. Robert, or rather Morris, met her 3 months ago. They have been dating since then. She does not know about you, and he has already talked to her about investing together." Mary covered her face with her hands. Tears fell relentlessly. "What do I do with all this?" "You can report him, although the process will be long and exhausting, or you can confront him directly, but you run a risk." Mary thought about it for a few seconds. "I want to look him in the face." Alan observed her seriously. "Then do not go alone." She nodded. She left the office with the folder in her hand, and her soul shattered. Margaret was waiting for her in the car. Seeing her expression, she did not ask. She just started the car and drove in silence. That night, Mary wrote to Robert. "I want to see you. At my place. Tomorrow at 8. He replied quickly. "Of course, honey. Is everything okay? I just want to talk." The next morning was endless. Mary made sure the camera system was working. Alan had installed 2 hidden devices the day before, one in the frame of the dining room painting, the other in a lamp in the hallway. Margaret would stay in the bedroom, ready to intervene if something went out of control. At 8 sharp, the doorbell rang. Mary opened the door. Robert was immaculate, with his white shirt and usual smile. "Hello, beautiful. I missed you." Mary did not answer. She stepped aside and gestured for him to come in. He entered, without noticing anything strange. He sat down on the sofa as if it were his home. "What is this mystery? Are you going to give me a surprise?" Mary sat down across from him. The black folder was on the table. "I want you to see this." Robert opened it. He read the first page, then the second. His expression began to change. The smile faded. His eyes hardened. "Where did you get this?" "From someone who tells the truth. You have no idea what you are doing." "I know I do." "You are making a mistake, and the only mistake was believing in you." He slammed the folder shut. He leaned toward her. "You do not know what you are getting into, Mary. Are you threatening me?" He smiled, but it was not his usual smile. It was different, crueler. "You messed with the wrong people." He got up, took his jacket, and left. Mary did not move until she heard the door close. Then she ran to the bedroom, where Margaret was already standing, phone in hand. "Did you record everything?" "Every second." Mary breathed, but it was not relief. It was the beginning of a war. The silence in the apartment became thick, as if the walls had heard Robert's every word, and also knew that something terrible was coming. Margaret slowly closed the bedroom door, still holding the cell phone, the video recorded and protected. Mary sat on the edge of the bed and lowered her gaze. She was not afraid yet, but she had a clear awareness of what she had just provoked. She had crossed an invisible line. She was no longer the deceived woman. Now she was the woman who had exposed an entire web of lies. And that, in Robert's world, was declaring war. The first thing she did was cancel the wedding. She called the planning company, the event hall, the florist. Everything, one by one. Each call was a liberation, and at the same time, a wound, because it still hurt. Not the love, but the deception, the profound, the systematic, the planned, the cruel. A few days later, the other things started. At first, they were small things, an unidentified call that hung up as soon as she answered. Then another, with a distorted voice that only repeated her name and hung up. Mary thought it was a coincidence, or perhaps a bad taste joke. But deep down, she knew it was not a joke. It was the beginning of the punishment. One morning, when she went down to the building garage to go to work, she found a folded white envelope under the windshield wiper of her car. The paper had no return address. Inside, a message written in large black letters. "You are playing with fire. It burns nicely, but it kills slowly." Mary froze. Her fingers trembled. She looked around. No one. Just the echo of other neighbors' footsteps going up the elevator. She put the paper in her purse and went back up to her apartment. She cancelled work that day. She called Alan. "They have started," she told him bluntly. "I told you it would happen. Do you have the envelope?" "Yes. I am on my way. Stay inside. Do not open the door to anyone." 30 minutes later, Alan was knocking on the door. He brought a briefcase and a somber expression. He checked the paper, photographed it, and put it in a plastic bag. "This is not just intimidation. This is a warning. It is their way of telling you that you are no longer playing on their turf. Now you are a threat." "What do we do?" "We are going to put up cameras, one at the door, one in the hallway, and I am going to leave you a panic button. You activate it, and it comes directly to me. You cannot be alone anymore, Mary." That night, she slept with a heavy heart. Margaret stayed with her, asleep on the sofa. Alan promised her that he would pull strings at the prosecutor's office. The evidence was compelling. not only because of the investigation he had done, but because of the testimonies of Larissa and other victims who had been encouraged to speak after she contacted them with Margaret's help. The file was being built, but there was still no arrest warrant, just an open process. The following week was worse. When Mary returned from the grocery store, she found her apartment door ajar, not forced, just open. Her heart pounded. She did not go in. She backed away slowly, took out her cell phone, and called Alan. "They are inside. My door is open. Do not go in. I am on my way. Call the police. Now." The officers arrived quickly. They checked the apartment. Nothing stolen, no broken glass, no drawers ransacked, nothing, except the cabinet where she kept the property deeds. It was messed up. The documents were there, but clearly someone had touched them, as if looking for something specific. On top of the bed, a loose sheet of paper, a message written in the same handwriting as the previous one. "You think you won, but this is just beginning." Mary felt an icy chill on the back of her neck. Alan spoke with the police, presented his credentials, and showed them part of the report. The officer took notes and promised to reinforce surveillance in the building, but that did not calm her. "They are no longer just trying to intimidate you. They are marking you. They are going to go further," Alan warned her. "They do not want to scare you. They want you to shut up, to disappear." "I am not leaving," Mary replied, her voice firm. "Not after all this." That night, when reviewing the installed cameras, they saw something disturbing. At 3 a.m, a man in a cap had been standing in front of the door for more than a minute. He did not ring the doorbell. He just stood there, motionless, and then left. His face was not visible, but his posture, his body, was unmistakable. Robert. The video was handed over to the authorities. Days later, someone else knocked on her door. It was a tall, slender woman with a harsh elegance, as if built through forced distrust. Diana Miller, the same real estate agent, the same one Alan's report had linked to the sales of the other victims. Mary did not open the door. She looked at her through the camera. "Mary," the woman said, looking directly at the lens. "I do not want problems. I just want to talk." "I have nothing to talk to you about. You are walking on a very thin rope. You have done enough. Leave things as they are, and all this ends." "Is that a threat?" "It is advice. You have no idea who you are messing with. You do not know what my family is capable of. The police already know who you are." Diana laughed. It was not a funny laugh. It was bitter, like someone who knows they are above the law. "The police are not going to protect you when we are inside. And believe me, we could get in whenever we wanted." Mary felt her blood run cold. Diana left without looking back. Mary sent the video to Alan. He shared it with the prosecutor's office. The case gained momentum. The complaint was formally filed under charges of fraud, identity theft, and criminal conspiracy. An arrest warrant began to be processed. But the process was slow. The laws did not move with the urgency Mary needed. She installed an electronic lock. She hired private security. Margaret temporarily moved in with her. Alan came by every night to check everything. Still, she could not sleep more than 3 hours straight. The phone kept ringing at strange hours. She received empty emails, messages from fake accounts with photos of her building. The threats were mixed with constant fear. But something inside her was growing. It was not hatred. It was determination. On Friday night, Margaret went out to see her mother. Mary was alone for the first time in days. She took the opportunity to review the papers calmly, organize everything into folders, and scan documents. Meanwhile, a storm began to cover the sky. At 9 o'clock, the hallway camera activated. Mary looked at the monitor. It was Robert. He was standing in front of the door, wet from the rain, wearing the same white shirt, as if he did not care about the scene. He was looking directly at the lens. He did not move. Mary did not breathe. He raised his hand. He made a gesture as if waving. Then he approached the intercom and spoke. "That house will be mine. You can bet your life." And he left. Mary collapsed on the sofa. The fear now had a shape. It had a face. It had a voice. And there was no way that this was going to end well. Mary knew it as soon as Robert moved away from the camera. It was not just a threat. It was a declaration of war. And the most dangerous thing was that he had nothing to lose. But she did. Her peace, her name, her home, her life. Alan arrived 30 minutes later. They reviewed the video together. He did not say anything for several seconds. Then he pressed his lips together, closed the laptop, and looked at Mary with a seriousness he had not shown before. "Time to wait is over. Now we go after him." Mary nodded. She was ready. The next step was to gather the others. Alan proposed it. It was time to consolidate the evidence, coordinate efforts, show that it was not an isolated case, but a carefully woven network of scams. Mary made the calls. Larissa was the first to respond. Then Jane appeared. She was not dead. She was not lost. She was hiding in another city, with another name. When she found out Robert was looking for her, she disappeared without a trace. She had been in psychological treatment for years. When she received Mary's message, she hesitated. But then she decided to speak. The meeting was in a discreet place, Alan's office. 4 chairs around a grey table, neutral walls, a window covered by blinds. Mary arrived first, then Larissa, her countenance already firmer, then Jane, who entered with short, nervous steps, as if everything in that space could betray her. And finally Irene. Mary did not know Irene. Alan had contacted her after reviewing Robert's latest activities. Irene had not been scammed, but she was about to be. She had a house in the suburbs of Dallas, lived alone since her mother died, and had met Robert at an art gallery. He approached her with the same discourse, admiration, sweetness, promises of a joint business. When she began to suspect, she found an anonymous blog online where a woman warned about her case. It was Larissa. The conversation between them was tough, but also powerful. They were not just victims, they were survivors. Each one told her story from a different angle, but the wound was common: the deception, the manipulation, the shame, the fear. Jane was the hardest to listen to. "He asked me to sell my parents' house. He promised me we would open a clinic together. I gave him everything. When I started asking questions, it said he locked me in my own house for days. He took my phone. I had to escape through the window. No one believed me. The police did nothing. My sister thought I was exaggerating. I went to another city with the little I had left. I changed my name. I did not dare to report him. Until today." Larissa took her hand. Irene had tears in her eyes. "What do we do? How do you fight someone like him?" she asked. Alan placed a folder on the table. Inside were copies of the reports, the complaints, the fake documents, the call records, the videos from the hallway camera, the written threats, the names of all the women contacted. The case was no longer a file. It was a ticking time bomb. "The prosecutor is already informed," Alan said. "The complaint has been formalized as aggravated fraud and criminal conspiracy. We are about to get the arrest warrant. We just need one more piece." "And what is that?" Mary asked. "Teresa." The glances crossed. Teresa Miller, Robert's mother, the silent accomplice, the woman who had opened the door to every victim, who asked financial questions disguised as innocent conversation, who covered up every disappearance. She knows everything, maybe more than him, Alan added, but she is afraid, and the only way to break the structure is for one of the pieces to crack from within. Mary thought for several minutes. She knew where Teresa lived. She knew how to knock on the door, but she did not know if she would come out alive. "I will go," she said. "Alone. I do not want them to scare her." Alan disagreed, but finally accepted. He placed a hidden microphone and a tiny camera on the lapel of her coat. Margaret accompanied her to the building entrance, and then waited outside, in the car. Mary climbed the stairs with tense legs. She knocked 3 times. Teresa took a long time to open. Her face showed surprise, but not the feigned kind from before. It was something else. Pure tension. "What are you doing here?" she said, without hiding her discomfort. "I need to talk to you. Alone. I am not here to fight, or to scream, just to talk." Teresa hesitated, but stepped aside. Mary entered. Everything was the same as the last time. Too much order, too much silence. They sat down in the dining room, face to face. "Your son came to my house. He threatened me. I have proof, recordings, testimonies. We know everything, Teresa. We know about Diana, about the other women. You can help us, or you can go down with them." Teresa lowered her gaze. Her fingers trembled. She did not say anything for almost a minute. "I did not know at first," she murmured. "I just thought I was helping my son get ahead. He told me they were business deals, that he was giving opportunities to women who did not know how to manage their assets." "And when they disappeared," Mary asked, "did you also justify that?" Teresa burst into tears. They were not loud tears. They were contained, as if she refused to give in completely. "It all got out of control. Diana was the one who convinced him to continue. She is ambitious. She pushed. I stayed quiet. And that makes me an accomplice. I know." "Then speak. Give a statement. Help stop this. There is no turning back." Teresa looked her in the eyes, for the first time, without a shield. "Do you promise me they will not kill him?" "I promise you that we are going to seek justice." Teresa nodded. Alan and the prosecutor met with her 2 days later. She gave a statement. She detailed the movements, the names, the dates. She handed over documents, even copies of contracts she had hidden out of fear. Her testimony sealed the indictment. That same week, the operation was authorized. Diana was arrested at her office. She had fake documents, lists of properties, and bank records of the victims. She was arrogant at first, but when they showed her the video of Teresa testifying and the evidence found, she collapsed. She started crying. She shouted that Robert had manipulated her, that he forced her, that she was only following orders. She was taken into custody, without bail. The media began to catch the scent of the scandal. A network of scams affecting single, vulnerable women from within their own homes. Social media was flooded with messages. More women wrote to Alan, to Mary. There were other victims, in other cities, in other states. Some had been silent for years. Now they felt they could speak. Mary could not believe how far everything had gone, and yet the most important thing was missing. Robert. He had disappeared. Since his last appearance in front of the camera, he had not been seen again. His cell phone was turned off. There were no bank movements, no digital trace. But Alan did not let up. On Thursday night, Mary's cell phone vibrated. It was late. Margaret was sleeping. Alan was on the screen. "Mary, we have him." She sat up immediately. "Where?" "In the city, in a hostel in the Greenville neighborhood, registered under the name of Maurice Stephen Scott. An informant recognized him from the photo that circulated. We have already activated the order. The police are on their way." Mary stayed seated, phone in hand, looking toward the window. Outside, another storm began to form. It was not just water hitting the glass. It was a premonition. Something was approaching. Something that had to happen for everything to end. Robert was in the city. It was only a matter of time. Justice already had him on the radar. But the story did not end with his location. The final act was still missing. She did not sleep that night. She stayed by the window, watching the lightning illuminate the buildings in the distance. Margaret was asleep on the sofa, exhausted from the pace of the last few days. Alan had promised surveillance at the building door, a patrol car that would make constant rounds. But inside her, the real fear was that Robert would appear without warning, without law, without mercy. At dawn, a call from Alan startled her. "Mary, do not panic, but last night someone tried to force the back door of the building. He did not manage to get in, but a camera in the alley caught his face. It was him." Mary felt the cold run through her body. "And now what do we do?" "The arrest warrant has already been issued. Now we are actively looking for him. You have to stay where you are. Do not go out. I will send 2 plainclothes officers to stay outside your apartment. This ends this week." That same night, the silence was different. Heavy, intense. At 2:15 in this morning, the cameras activated. Margaret woke up from the beeping of the security system. Mary ran to the monitor. There he was. Robert. Again. But this time not in front of the door. This time with a lockpick in his hand, forcing the lock. Mary did not scream. She did not cry. She did not tremble. She just pressed the emergency button. In seconds, Alan was notified. Margaret grabbed her cell phone and called the assigned patrol number. Mary stepped back, observing every movement on the camera. Robert was focused on his task. He had lost the disguise of the charming man. His face showed anxiety, contained fury, desperation. A few minutes later, a loud bang interrupted his attempt. 4 agents surrounded him. Robert tried to run, but they knocked him down. He was subdued against the ground. He screamed Mary's name with rage, as if she were the one stealing his life. The agents handcuffed him and dragged him out of the building. Margaret hugged Mary without saying a word. She did not cry. She did not tremble. She just closed her eyes. For the first time, she could say she had survived. The news spread quickly. The media reported the arrest of an alleged serial scammer accused of defrauding several women in different states. Robert Miller, also known as Maurice Taylor, was in custody. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 5 days later. The courtroom was filled with faces who knew their story from the inside. Mary arrived accompanied by Margaret, Alan, and a prosecutor. Larissa, Irene, and Jane were there too. Teresa arrived alone. No one hugged her, but everyone understood the cost she had paid for testifying against her own son. When Robert was brought before the judge, his eyes locked onto Mary. He did not say a word. His face was hard, without a trace of emotion. He was not the man who had charmed her. He was someone else. A hollow being, like an abandoned house that only preserves its facade. The prosecutor presented the evidence. The recordings, the forged contracts, the testimonies, the bank accounts, the multiple identities. Each witness provided a part of the puzzle. When it was Teresa's turn, the silence in the room became thick. "I was his mother," she said. "And I failed as a mother. I kept silent about what I should have reported. I looked the other way when the lies became obvious. I thought I was helping my son rebuild his life, but what I did was support his wickedness." The judge listened in silence. In the end, he ordered pre-trial detention without bail. The trial would continue its course, but Robert would not walk free again, not without facing justice. Mary did not smile. She did not celebrate. She just breathed. A deep breath, different, free. Outside, the victims hugged each other. They were not the same women he had destroyed. Now they were different, stronger, closer, more awake. Alan looked at them with respect. Margaret cried silently. Mary just looked up at the sky. It was as if her grandmother were there, watching everything. That night, Mary went to bed early. Margaret decided to sleep at her own house for the first time in weeks. The apartment was calm, everything in its place, everything in order. At 3 a.m, she dreamed of her grandmother again. But this time they were not in the kitchen. There were no warnings, there was no fear. They were in an open field, a place full of flowers. Clara looked at her with a smile that lit up her face. "Now you are free," she said. "You did the right thing, not just for you, for all of them." Mary woke up with tears in her eyes. They were sweet tears, of relief, of gratitude. The sun was coming through the window. The storm was gone. Days later she began to live, not as therapy, not as revenge, as a legacy. Her story had to be known. It had to reach other women, those who lived with a manipulated heart, those who did not know how to recognize abuse behind a smile, those who thought love naturally hurts, those who were silent out of fear, shame, or guilt. The book was titled The Ones Who Woke Up in Time. It was a success. But more important than that was the support network that formed from it. Mary founded a non-profit organization to help victims of psychological violence and emotional manipulation. Irene became a counselor. Larissa became the project's accountant. Jane, after several months of recovery, dared to give public talks. Teresa, after serving her sentence for complicity, offered her testimony from the other side of shame. Robert was sentenced to 20 years in prison, not for love, not for betrayal, for fraud, for emotional distress, for criminal conspiracy. But the deepest justice was not that of the courts, it was the internal one. Mary walked down the street again without looking back. She learned to trust again, although with more open eyes. She went back to sleep without expecting dark dreams. She became herself again, but a new version, stronger, wiser, more alive. And every time someone asked her how she got out of it all, she said the same thing. It was not just because of me. It was because someone from another place warned me, woke me up, held me when I could not anymore. There are battles that seem too big, monsters that disguise themselves as love, shadows that steal our breath. But when the truth prevails, when the soul clings to the light, no deception can last forever. God does not leave without a voice those who cry out from the heart. He does not abandon those who were hurt for trusting. He does not remain silent in the face of injustice. Life, with all its chaos, also has a way of balancing itself. Sooner or later, every seed sown in pain blossoms into truth. Every tear shed with faith transforms into a sign. Every woman who stands up breaks chains that others did not even know they were wearing. And somewhere in heaven, there are those who watch over us even though they are no longer here. Sometimes they appear in dreams, sometimes in intuitions, sometimes in an inner strength that we do not know where it comes from. But they are there, guiding, warning, loving. Mary understood it late, but in time. And since then, she never ignored a sign again. Because the soul knows, it has always known. If you liked this story, I invite you to leave me a comment about what you felt when listening to it. And if you have gone through a similar situation of deception, I would love for you to share your valuable opinion. There are many people going through a similar situation. We hope your voice lives in you. Share this story and be part of the change. Remember to tell me what city you are watching this video from. I would be very honored if you leave me a like. Share the video with a friend or family member and subscribe to the channel. Do not miss the next surprising story that is appearing on your screen right now. We have entertainment guaranteed exclusively for you. See you in the next video.